Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. I am on the East Coast today, so it's an early Tuesday morning for my West Coast peeps, but I wanted to get back on and do Let's Get Live with Dracaena. So today we are going to be talking about cork taint, okay, and what is a corked wine. So I'm pretty sure everybody has heard about a corked wine or your wine being corked. And, the other day I was out with some people and they were having this conversation of whether or not they should return a corked bottle. And other people were saying, well, how can you even tell it's corked? This is, the wine that's coming. If you're purchasing it, it's not going to be an issue. It's all good. And then the other person was like, yes, it's, if I can taste that it's corked or I can smell that it's corked, then I'm going to return it. And the other people were like, no, you shouldn't return it. So that triggered my concept for this week's Let's Get Live, which is corked wine. So what exactly is corked wine? So it is because of this wonderful chemical here, okay? And cork taint refers to the wine contaminant that is known as TCA. And TCA is a compound that is actually a result of the naturally occurring interaction. So there's a fungus, okay, that can be found on the cork, and it interacts with some chlorine-based cleaning products. So TCA is this compound here. It stands for 2,4,6 trichloroanisole, and it really can come from a variety of places. It doesn't necessarily need to come from cork. Okay, so the fungus can be found on the tree itself. It can be found in barrels, wooden pallets, beams in the winery. It can be found in cardboard. So pretty much wherever this fungus can grow, anywhere where there's wood-based product, this fungus can grow. And then when it interacts with a chlorine-based compound that usually the winery is used to clean with, that's where this cork taint came around with. And it's really kind of a huge issue because similar to Brettanomyces, right, or Brett, once that gets into the winery, once that fungus gets into the winery, right, the whole winery can get Brett. And the same thing with cork taint. Once TCA gets into the winery, the whole winery can kind of be infested with this taint, and then it's like a whole big thing, okay, where wineries have to deal with this. So it's not just going to affect a single bottle, or a single case, right, or a single barrel. It can take over the entire winery. So it's a huge thing. So what exactly is cork taint? So let's see. So this is a cork tree, okay? And the thing is that years ago, it used to be a huge thing. Cork taint was a massive problem. A large percentage of bottles were corked, okay? But over the past few years, it really has decreased. So according to a report in Wine Spectator, their Napa office had been tracking number of corked bottles of their tastings in their California office since 2005. And back then, it was like almost 10% of bottles were corked. Over the years, okay, it's gotten less and less. And the last time they talked about this research was in 2012, and it was down to 3.7%. So years ago, huge issue. 10% of the bottles you opened were going to be corked. Okay, now it's 3%. And there's a few reasons why cork taint has dropped, okay? Really two main reasons why it's dropped. So the first one is that the cork industry actually started to acknowledge that it was a thing, and they started, in opposed to defending themselves, it's not us, right? What happened was they started doing research, and they found out what was going on, and they started to improve their quality assurance and their QA and QC procedures and the treatments of how they were developing the cork to make it less susceptible to developing cork taint. And actually in 2020, the Cork Quality Council actually stated that just under 3% of the corks that they test are contaminated with TCA. So it's dropped significantly from 10% to under 3%. So that's one reason, is the QA and the QC at the cork level itself. But the second reason why there's less cork taint in today's world is because we now understand what causes that. It was that interaction of that fungus and a chlorine-based cleaning solution. So a lot of wineries have moved away from cleaning with bleach products in order to sanitize. Remember, a large portion of winemaking is just sanitizing. So all of that chlorine around the winery when we were bottling, anything like that, that was going to help increase the amount of cork taint. But now we don't use chlorine as much anymore, right? So depending on the surface that is trying to be sanitized, wineries can use hydrogen peroxide, peracetic, sulfur dioxide. You can use alcohol solutions, hot water, steam, okay, oxygen, this oxygenation thing like Purovino. These are all things that now eliminate that cork taint because there's no more chlorine. So how do you know if your wine is tainted? Well, it's the scent. You can kind of tell it. Okay, it is basically wet cardboard. So the best way that I can explain it is to get a piece of cardboard, especially that corrugated cardboard. Get that cardboard, wet it all up, get it damp, get it soggy, let it sit out for a little while, and then hang out and smell it. Okay, that is what cork taint is. Okay, that's going to allow you to detect the TCA in the wine. Another like sensory memory, you know how like you can think about things and that sense overload comes to you. If you've ever walked down into a damp, musty basement, that's that same smell, because that's what cork taint does. It is a musty odor. Okay, so on the palate, what TCA does is dull the fruit flavors, and it kind of makes it have a very short finish, but it's kind of, it's a difficult thing. Not everybody can taste it. So what you want to do is there are people who are super tasters. So not everybody can taste cork taint. And this is a picture of a super taster. And you can see that the papillae that are on your tongue, right? People who are considered super tasters, they have more papillae on their tongue, so they can taste things. Now, the thing with cork taint is it can be very little or it can be in excess, and depending on what level of sensitivity you have to it, that bottle may be corked and you never taste it, or somebody, it may be only 1% and people are tasting it. So it depends on that amount of papillae that are on your tongue, whether you can taste it. It's kind of like the same thing as the bitterness, okay? The bitterness is, some people can never taste bitter, right? And other people are super sensitive to it. When I used to teach, I used to love when we did senses, because you could take this liquid bitter and I would give a little bit to it to each of my students, and they would put it on their tongue. And some kids would be like, huh? I don't get anything. And some kids would be like freaking out because it's super, super bitter. Okay. So depending on whether or not, how many papillae you have on your tongue, that's going to determine whether or not you can even taste the cork. And then just how much you are sensitive to that smell. Okay. So like I said, there's about 25% of the population that is a super taster. So to return to that question at the very beginning, okay, should you return a bottle that is corked? Okay, the answer is absolutely yes. If you order a bottle of wine, whether it's at a restaurant or even if you order it at a winery, if you take a bottle home and it is corked, you're going to want to let that winery know that it's corked, because as the winery, we want you to taste something good. We want you to taste our wine. We don't want you to taste a faulted product. So that gives you a negative aspect of our wine. So yes, call the winery, call the waiter, call the maitre d', and have them come back and give that bottle back if it is corked. Okay. That, with that being said, there is a very big difference between being a corked bottle and returning it versus ordering a bottle and it not being what you want it to be, thereby saying, oh, I don't like this wine, so I'm going to return it. Okay, those are two very different things. If the wine is faulted, return it. If it is not faulted, you just don't like it, well, you know what? You kind of have to suck it up at that point. Okay, you ordered it, you've got to own it. Okay, the only other time I would say to return a bottle is sometimes when you order a bottle, that waiter doesn't bring the exact bottle that you are wanting, that you ordered. So make sure that that waiter is always showing you the label before they open it, and so that you can confirm that it is an actual bottle that you ordered. Sometimes they bring the wrong vintage. Sometimes I've ordered a Riesling and they brought me a Gewürztraminer. Okay, so just make sure that. So that is cork taint, and that is how to figure out whether your bottle is corked, what it smells like, and what to do with it. So have a great week, and I will see you again next Tuesday. Again, any topics you'd like me to cover, please leave a comment down below, and I will get to it and answer your question. Sláinte!